welcome to Maverick Mastery, episode 17. In this series, we go through certain VARC question types. This week, we are looking at reading comprehension. There are going to be two passages with 4 questions each that I will solve and I will give you the reasoning for. And then there are going to be 2 passages with 4 questions each that I will give you for practice, the answers for which will be present in the description box below. Without much ado, let's begin. Okay. First passage. Machiavelli is presently lauded for his contribution to the world of politics, to the extent that he is widely considered the founder of modern political science with respect to his prevailing reputation of seemingly brutal objectivity in terms of political morality. Okay. Pay attention, it says he's presently lauded, which would imply that there was a time where his contributions were not as appropriately viewed through a lens of appreciation. And when we say he's presently lauded, it is on account of the fact that he is widely considered the founder of modern political science with respect to his prevailing reputation, his current reputation. See, presently lauded, current reputation of seemingly brutal objectivity in terms of political morality. His disregard of a moral frame of reference. He does not utilize a moral frame of reference to judge and, let's say, pass judgments on the political action taken by somebody. His disregard for a moral frame of reference in favor of a grounded, reality-based political stance is perhaps his most essential quality. The most defining feature, the most separating factor of his political theory compared to other people's is going to be the fact that he disregards a moral framework and is looking at more reality-based, something that is rooted in grounded reality, something that is more actionable, something that is more functional. The work that has contributed to his fame would be posthumously published, The Prince. Okay, posthumously would mean after his death. The Prince, this work, was published after he died. It is especially exciting to read the works of Machiavelli now. The Prince in particular, considering the historical backdrop of his creations at the time of his prolific writing, the humanist movement had taken hold of Italy's cultural and philosophical traditions. Okay. This also implies Machiavelli is from Italy. And at the time of his prolific writing in the form of The Prince, at that time, the humanist movement had taken center stage in Italy's zeitgeist. Moral and worldly virtues stood tall next to the religious, and given their infancy within the realm of societal customs, sparked a huge following amongst the mass interest. Okay. Moral and worldly virtues had become something that most of the things were revolving around. They had a huge following among the mass interest. The questions Machiavelli accumulated throughout his most infamous work, The Prince. Now see, previously it was known as his best work. Now it is being called most infamous work. And this infamous is on account of the timeline. Right now, he's lauded for it, but at the time, it was in the present time, in the contemporary times, his work was not viewed very favorably. Whether a prince should aim to be loved or feared, should be virtuous in the religious sense or full of political virtue. Virtue here is given in the original English spelling without the E and dot over the word U. Should be virtuous in the religious sense, should be virtuous in the moral sense, or should be full of political virtue. Political expediency takes priority over moral exigencies. Are those that the humanists would have tackled as concrete, realistic problems that needed solving. Had Machiavelli been alive when this work was published, would likely have been for him to have faced even further political exile, which is to imply that he faced political exile during his lifetime. But if Prince had been published while he was alive, he would have faced further political exile than what he had already endured. But in our contemporary society, we may now be able to appreciate the way that Machiavelli consciously separated ethics from politics. Okay? He gets credit for separating ethics from politics. To him, the actions of the state could not be judged by individual morals. There couldn't be black and white discrimination on what was good or evil. Basically, we are getting to a point where we're saying sometimes you have to do evil in order to, you have to do small evil in order to enact a larger good, or sometimes you have to side with the devil. Sometimes, basically, you have to make concessions in service of a larger good. Okay. The prince, in the prince, he takes great care to cater his writing to the interests of the state rather than the private citizen, and as such left little room for discussion of what was morally correct. He even took the time to explicitly denounce the traditionally virtuous qualities that the princes were thought to need in the public eye. The best example of this I can think of is, let's say, in at the personal virtue level, torturing someone could be bad, is bad. Torturing someone is bad. But then let's say you have control of a terrorist, you have a terrorist in your arrest, and there is a bomb planted somewhere. Now torturing this person so that we know where the bomb is planted, so that we can save the lives of people who are present in the state. At that time, the moral consideration of torturing someone being evil should not come into play. That is what I'm getting as the factors that Prince is considering, but and disregarding the individual moral values as the key decision-making factor. What he advocated for in its stead was a carefully crafted plan of action directed by virtue. And this virtue, remember, was aligned with political virtue. Yes, political virtue. The talent and ability of a prince to achieve his goals. Goal achievement is at the forefront. Goal achievement from the perspective of the state was at the goal front, not at the individual level. To have such a honed focus on the capabilities of a person in power could prove to be more crucial now than ever before. Given the recent rise in far-right populist fascist politicians and political parties, the populist qualities of Machiavelli's political theories must be investigated in order to find the relevance in the modern political field. The author has also tried to contextualize learnings from the Prince, which was Machiavelli's writing, in the present times with the rise of the far-right populist politicians and political parties. I look to Machiavelli's most prominent considerations throughout the Prince: statecraft, the art of war, the principles of maintaining power. What was most striking to find while reading The Prince is that the work can take different meanings depending on the lens through which the readers view it. So if you're reading it from a right-wing perspective, or you're reading it from a left-wing perspective, or you're reading it from a state perspective, looking at the federal government control, or you're looking at it from the federal government perspective, looking to have a conciliatory or an antagonistic relationship towards the state that you're looking over. You can get different meanings depending upon the lens through which you view it. Translating the nature of Machiavelli's ideas being set in the 16th century warring Italian states, as it was, would prove difficult before changing the direction of approach. It wasn't until the populist focus lent itself to the book that I was able to find outstanding similarities between the ideals within the Prince and the modern era of today's politics. Okay. This is because the roughly defined populist ideology, that of a general battle between pure people and corrupt aristocracy, was readily mirrored by the Machiavelli's idea of the prince and his people against the nobility. Of course, the nobility is going to be the corrupt aristocracy, and the prince and the people is going to be the pure people, the general population. an ideological rightness that has been that has seen itself repeated generation after generation in various forms and regimes. Okay, fairly straightforward passage, not a lot to understand. The Prince, work of Machiavelli, has gained relevance, has become popular now, was not as popular back in the day. The distinguishing feature that the Prince has is it keeps moral considerations to the side and keeps what is politically exigent at the top. This is what this passage is talking. Let's get through individual questions. Which one of the following statements, if true, could be an accurate inference from the passage? So say, if true, this would imply that whatever is given in the options need not necessarily be present in the passage. Need not necessarily be present in the passage. But it should logically flow from what we are given in the passage. Okay. Let's see. Machiavelli was a supporter of the humanist movement's ideals of morals and worldly virtues. He was the first one to separate religious virtues from what was politically virtuous. So he was a supporter of the humanist movement of ideals of morals and worldly virtues. Seems a little far. No. The book inspired the populist leaders for generations. If the book had inspired populist leaders for generation, it would have been very easy for the author to find the similarities between the new populist regimes and the book Prince. But it says it wasn't until the populist focus lent itself to the book that I was able to find outstanding similarities between the ideals within the Prince and the modern era of today's politics. So it's not like it was being used by populist leaders for generation. But between A and B, clearly, this is possible. A is definitely not possible. This is contrary to what is given in the passage. B survives. Between B and C, according to Machiavelli, for a leader, ability was more important than morals. And this is definitely something you can infer from the passage, because he was the first one to separate moral exigencies, as in moral exigencies from political exigencies. You're not looking for individual morality to be satisfied. You're looking for what is politically exigent. So between B and C, C survives. And last, Machiavelli founded the world of political science. While Machiavelli has a special place in the field of political science, the fact that he founded the field of political science seems a little, as in this cannot possibly be inferred. This also goes away. What remains is option C, and this should be the answer. Question 2. Which one of the following statements, if false, could be seen as best supporting the arguments of Machiavelli? So now see, if false could be best seen as supporting the arguments of Machiavelli, which is essentially saying we have to look for an option, we should look for an option which is not in line with what Machiavelli was advocating for. Okay. Ability and capability are more important qualities for a leader than morals. This is true as per the passage. And therefore A cannot be the answer. A leader should be loved rather than feared. There is a question on this. Should a leader be feared or should a leader be loved? So whether this was a question that was raised, the final stance here was not really given. So we leave that be for the time being. Option C, politics and statecraft should be based on moral and religious ideals. This is false as per passage. It should not be based on moral and religious ideals. It should be based on political exigencies, what is politically virtuous. So between B and C, B, we don't know whether it is true or false, but C, we definitely know this is against what is given in the passage. So C survives. Finally, ethics and politics should be separated for the sake of good governance. This is true as per passage, and therefore D should not be the answer. The correct answer to this question is also C, very much like question 1. Next question. According to the passage, what is the one feature that is common to all forms of populist ideologies? Populist ideologies is, see, the description of populist ideologies, us versus the elite, the pure people and the corrupt aristocracy, the people and his prince against the nobility. So, one feature common to all forms of populist ideologies. Let's see. The separation of ethics in politics in everyday governance. No, they were seen as a battle between the masses, who were seen as virtuous, and the elite, who were corrupt. Masses and the elite, masses and the elite, I understand, but masses who were seen as virtuous, this is a jump too far. Elite who were corrupt seems fine, but between A and B, clearly B wins. For B, masses who were seen as virtuous, masses, us, the underprivileged, the people who don't have power in their control, I can understand. But masses who are seen as virtuous, this seems a little odd. But between A and B, he still survives. Okay. Option C. They gave rise to the populist leaders who were ultra nationalistic. Again, nothing of the sort. Populism of the populist movement leads to ultra nationalistic leaders. Nothing of the sort has been mentioned. This also goes away. Option D. They relied on the gullibility of the masses to create strong leaders. This, in essence, says the masses are stupid, or they are willing to believe anything in order to create strong leaders. Nothing of that sort has been mentioned. It is a battle between the masses and the elite, which is being mentioned in B. Although there is an additional feature attached to masses here, still, compared to the other options, B is the one that survives and should be the answer. Next question. According to the passage, all of the following is true about the prince, except that the book, The Prince, ran contrary to the prevailing sentiments of the times. In the time when The Prince was published, it would have led to his exile. So, of course, it is contrary to the prevailing sentiments of the time. So, this is true as per the passage, and therefore, this cannot be the answer. The book has a clear and unambiguous meaning of politics and statecraft. This I can't really straight away say, but between A and B, B would survive because has a clear and unambiguous meaning on politics and statecraft, because I can't really say this is true or this is false, because there are questions. There were questions raised. Should the prince be feared or loved? Should he be virtuous in the religious sense or full of political virtues? Are those that the humanists would have tackled the concrete realistic problems that needed solving. So whether this book is, I know the book separated moral and ethical actions from politically virtuous actions, but what is precisely politics and statecraft, as I don't know if the book really concedes that. Okay, let's see. Had the book been published when Machiavelli was alive, it is likely he would have been in political exile. Okay. Now this line has already, it is likely he would have been in political exile. This statement is linked to this one. Had Machiavelli been alive when the work was published, would likely have been for him to have faced even further political exile than what he already endured. Had the book been published when Machiavelli was alive, it is likely he would have been in political exile. This basically translates into he was already in political exile when this book would have been published. He would have been in further political exile. So had it been published when Machiavelli was alive, it is likely he would have been in political exile. At the time of the publishing, he would have been in political exile. This is true as per passage. And therefore, this goes away, cannot be the answer. And then the last point, the book emphasized on the interests of the state rather than on the individuals. And this is precisely mentioned in the passage. In the prince, he takes great care to cater his right to the interests of the state rather than the private citizen. So, this is also true as per the passage, and therefore cannot be the answer. By extension, what is left is B. And now, backwards the reasoning I can say, yeah, B is right, because the fact that questions were raised in the books in the book, the prints, and precise answers were not given. So claiming that the book has given clear and unambiguous meaning of politics and statecraft is not true. This is false as per the passage, and we'll mark it. So, but B, you can't really say clear definitions were given or clear definitions were not given. It stays. But A, C, and D, it is definitely true as per the passage, and therefore they cannot be the answer. Okay. This passage was about 569 words, and all of these are reasonably easy questions. Let us look at the second passage. The universe began as a strange sort of soup. Large galaxies hadn't yet formed, and flying particles were hotter than the centers of stars in the universe today. Of these, tiny particles known as quarks clumped together to form building blocks of atoms, neutrons, protons, and electrons. So quarks clumped together to form neutrons, protons, and electrons, which are known as building blocks of atoms. Through a process called the cosmic inflation, the universe expanded like a balloon, smoothing out the clumps being neutrons, protons, and electrons. Okay. It could be that the missing matter of the universe, called dark matter by physicists, formed then too. Dark matter is one of astronomy's notorious mysteries. Dark matter introduction. Dark matter is one of astronomy's notorious mysteries. Evidence has grown over the past century that there must be something out there besides the stuff that makes up our tables, our planet, even ourselves. Basically, something that is not like the usual stuff we see all around us. An early hint in the 1970s came from the astronomer Vera Rubin, who showed that the stars at the edges of galaxies rotate faster than we'd expect from just the mass that we see through the telescopes. So our expectation when we looked at the mass of the stars and the bodies, heavenly bodies, we expected them to rotate at a certain speed, but they're rotating faster than that. So something else heavy had to be there, exerting enough gravity to make the galaxy spin. Since the 1980s, astronomers have agreed. Again, if you know about space research, because it is very difficult to conduct experiments about what is out there in the space, more often than not, it is not really a scientific theory that comes up. It is a scientific hypothesis. And then when it gains widespread acceptance, it becomes a part of scientific discussion at the time. So let's say the Big Bang is not something that is proven, but it has widespread support because the theory perfectly answers a lot of questions that other alternate theories do not. So it has won an argument over other hypotheses, not that it has been conclusively proven. So when we read a line like this, since the 1980s, astronomers have agreed and said, okay, this theory was postulated and it was better than every alternate theory out there. So astronomers have fallen in line, they have agreed. Dark matter must exist to explain that missing mass in our observations. But we can't see it since it doesn't interact with light in typical ways. So see how you are basically working backwards. First, because the heavenly bodies that we observe, we expect them to rotate at a certain speed, but they are not rotating at a certain speed. So there must be something out there. Let's call it dark matter. But why can't we observe dark matter? Because light doesn't interact with it in ways that we expect it to. Light does not interact with it in typical ways. Basically, you're finding more and more reasons to justify this hypothesis rather than scientifically experimenting upon it and proving it all beyond all doubt, because the experimentation is not possible. Okay. Our current best estimates show that there should be about 5 times as much dark matter as regular matter in the universe. Again, estimates. We don't know for certain. Our current best estimates show that there should be about 5 times as much dark matter as regular matter in the universe. In fact, all things we interact with in our daily lives makes up less than 5% of the matter in the universe. Dark matter makes up 25% of the universe, and we have no idea what it is, says Leah Jenks. Okay. So in that sense, it is a hugely important open question in the field. I think it is also a fun problem to work on because there is a lot of room for creativity in trying to think of new ways we might be able to understand this mysterious missing matter. Okay. Basically, in the absence of a robust experimentation mechanism, what is being talked of is, see, there is some missing mass, there is some reason by which our expectation of the speed at which they should be rotating versus the speed at which they are actually rotating. There is a difference. One theory pushed forward is dark matter. Now, this theory of dark matter, it doesn't interact with light in typical ways, or maybe some other theory comes up. So lots of theories are being postulated, and this leads to leaves a lot of room for creativity, different ways of interpreting, understanding. Basically, new ideas will be postulated. This is wonderful for scientific advancement. Okay, next. So far, we've had many ideas, but little evidence to confirm any of them. The problem with space-based research. Physicists have spent a lot of their time looking for new particles to explain the missing mass. One of the most popular candidates, a collection of big particles called WIMPs, or weakly interacting massive particles, has recently fallen out of favor. So previously there was support for WIMPs, but now it has fallen out of favor since experiments haven't been able to find evidence for them. Remember, it has fallen out of favor. It has not been conclusively disproven. It has not been conclusively proven. It has fallen out of favor. The support for it has dwindled since experiments haven't been able to find evidence for them. Despite looking with particle accelerators, large underground particle detecting chambers, and other experiments, the universe has given us no sign that dark matter is one of these elusive particles. This has led scientists to look for other extremely tiny particles subject to strange quantum phenomena known as fuzzy dark matter. Okay. See, this is the creativity that was being talked of. In order to explain away the difference in the rate of their rotation, we come up with creative ways for explaining it. And one of these creative explanations may actually be right. So this has led the scientists to look for other extremely tiny particles subject to strange quantum phenomena known as fuzzy dark matter, or even changes to the fundamental laws of physics as we know them. But with a dearth of evidence for any of these ideas, lack of evidence for any of these ideas, a dark horse theory has emerged. Now, dark horse in any tournament, in any sporting event, dark horse is an entity that is not expected to win, but may end up winning on account of having certain strengths. So here, a dark horse theory would be a theory that does not have popular support right now, but may actually be right on account of this particular feature, which I'm guessing would come in the next lines. A dark horse theory has emerged. In those first seconds of the universe, there might have been another ingredient in the primordial soup, black holes. A dark horse theory, something that does not have popular support. A theory at the time of Big Bang, at the time of the first seconds of universe, there may have been another ingredient in the primordial soup. There may have been presence of black holes. These black holes from the very beginning of time, known as primordial black holes, PBHs, could still be lurking around today. And some scientists believe they could solve the problem of dark matter. Okay. Basically, this dark matter explanation, what is dark matter, where is dark matter, how can we measure them, how does it come into being? Maybe it is on account of primordial black holes, which still exist to this day. Black holes typically form from the depths of largest stars, where all mass of the star collapses down to one extremely dense point. The gravitational pull is so great that nothing, not even light, can escape. And this black hole theory is also sideways supported by the fact that even light, when it comes near a black hole, it gets absorbed and sucked in and nothing escapes it. Maybe the primordial black hole exists, and because of that, It doesn't interact with light in the ways that we expect it to. Dark matter is nothing but a reference to primordial black holes. That theory has been uh, postulated. Again, cannot be proven conclusively. Space-based research has that challenge. Okay, fine. Let's read through the individual questions. Which of the following statements, if true, would invalidate the arguments of the passage? If true, would invalidate. Now see, read this as this is positive, this is negative. Which of the following statements, if true, would invalidate the arguments of the passage? Positive, negative. Altogether, we get negative. So we have to look for something that would not be aligned with the passage. In these four options, we have to look for something that is not aligned with the passage. Okay. So stars at the edges of galaxies rotate at a speed we would expect from just the, okay, 1 minute. Stars at the edges of galaxies rotate at a speed we would expect from just the mass we see through the telescopes. Basically, there is no discrepancy between our expectation of the speed at which they rotate and the speed at which they are rotating. But would this be in contravention of what was given in the passage? Vera Rubin, who showed that stars at the edges of galaxies rotate faster than we expect from just the mass we see through the telescopes. This is directly in contravention of what was given in the passage. This is false as per passage. So this survives. Option B, dark matter is not present in our daily lives and in our planets. Dark matter was always present on the fringes of the galaxy, not precisely in our daily life. What we see around us is matter, 5% of what makes up the universe. So this is true as per passage. So between A and B goes away. We can't see dark matter because it does not interact with light in normal ways. This was something that was postulated. But we can't see it since it doesn't interact with light in typical ways. So this is true as per passage. This also goes away. Option D, nothing, not even light, can escape from black holes because of their great gravitational pull. This was mentioned in the last line. The gravitational pull is so great that nothing, not even light, can escape. This is also true. Therefore, this option also goes away. What remains is option A. This should be the answer. Next question. All of the following statements, if true, could be seen as supporting the arguments in the passage, except which one? So see again. If true, could be seen as supporting, except which one? This is positive, this is positive, this is negative. Overall, we are looking for something that is not aligned with the passage, something that is not true as per the passage. Let's go through. Cosmic inflation smoothened out the clumps formed by atoms. This is interesting. Remember, tiny particles known as quarks clumped together to form the building blocks of atoms, neutrons, protons, and electrons. Cosmic inflation smoothened out the clumps formed by atoms. No, clumps were forming neutrons, protons, and electrons, which are the building blocks of atoms. And through the process of cosmic inflation, the universe expanded like a balloon, smoothing out the clumps of neutrons, protons, and electrons, not the clumps formed by atoms. So this is false as per the passage, but this survives. Option B. All the things we interact with in our daily universe make up a very small portion of the matter in the universe. 5%, it was told to us. In fact, all the things we interact with daily in our life makes up less than 5% of the matter in the universe. It is a very small portion of the matter in the universe. This is true as per the passage. So between A and B goes away. We are looking for something that is not true as per the passage. Option C, dark matter cannot be seen through telescopes. This is precisely mentioned in a different line. Light does not interact with dark matter in the way we, as in, there was something with regards to light, no? But we can't see it since it does not interact with the light in typical ways. Additionally, we were also told through the telescopes, what we observe as mass of planets or stars at the edges of the galaxies, not planets, stars at the edges of galaxies. The mass that we observe via telescope, we expect the speed to be something, but it is rotating faster than that, which would mean dark matter was not being observed by the telescope. The mass was not being observed by this telescope. So this is true as per the passage, therefore cannot be the answer. Next, quarks were tiny particles formed out of hot flying particles. Let's see. The universe began as a strange sort of soup. Large galaxies hadn't formed yet, and flying particles were hotter than the centers of stars in the universe today. Of these tiny particles, which were flying particles hotter than the center of stars today, of these tiny particles known as quarks, clubbed together to form building blocks of atoms. So quarks were tiny particles formed out of hot flying particles. This is true as per the first two lines itself. This also goes away. This is also true. So the answer to the question has to be option A. And the very minute difference that you have to focus on is clumps were being formed of neutrons, protons, and electrons. Clumps were not being formed of atoms. Okay. Next, question 7. All of the following can be deduced about dark matter except which one? So which is not true about dark matter? Which is not true about dark matter? It is not visible because it does not interact with light in expected ways. This is true as per the given information in the passage. Cannot be the answer. Dark matter makes up about 1/4 of the universe. We are told 25%, about 25% of the universe. So this is also true. 25% is 1/4. The existence of dark matter is a hypothesis. This is true. This is also true. The existence of dark matter is a hypothesis. We don't know for certain it exists. It is a hypothesis because it has not been conclusively proven. Right now, it has to be a hypothesis. This is also true. And the last one, the missing mass in the universe is largely composed of dark matter. Remember, if dark matter is a hypothesis, you cannot be absolutely certain, you cannot be entirely certain that the missing mass in the universe is largely composed of dark matter. So, all of the following can be deduced about dark matter except D. The missing mass in the universe is most likely composed of dark matter, most likely composed of dark matter would have been fine, but largely composed of dark matter gives it a certain authority, gives it a certain finality, which you cannot get to based on the experiments conducted so far. Okay. None of the following can be inferred from the passage except which one? Finally, so far in the first question, we were looking for something that was not aligned with passage, not aligned with passage, not aligned with dark matter. But here, finally, we are looking for something that is aligned with the passage. Dark matter is present everywhere, even on our planet. No, you were told what is around us is matter. On the fringes of the galaxy, we have something called dark matter. Regular matter makes up about 5% of the universe. Maybe things that we see all around us. Scientists have proven the existence of fuzzy dark matter. No, scientists have not proven the existence of fuzzy dark matter. And dark matter is likely to be present in black holes. Now see, dark matter, an alternate theory to dark matter which causes the discrepancy in the mass observed and the speed of rotation observed in the stars on the fringes of the galaxy is primordial black holes. The fact that dark matter is likely to be present in black holes, this is not even referenced in the passage, this is tangential. So this is also not as good as option B, which says regular matter makes up about 5% of the universe. Of the 4 options, B survives. B has to be the answer. And that will be the entirety of this passage. Very simple passages. Now, we look at the passages that you should be practicing for yourself. I'll just display them. And what you should do is you should pause the video there. Look at the passage, mark the answers, and then you can check the answers which are present in the description box. Passage 3. Okay, this is done. Then passage 4. And that will be all for this week's episode. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully the process of eliminating choices or doing plus minus and getting to the answer is something that benefits you. Have fun. Okay, bye.